the trend is changing. Money isn't just thrown anywhere. People want to understand the psyche of the founder. What is this guy about? How is he perceived in his ecosystem? What do his peers think about him? These are the real things that would bring money out of investors' pockets, because they're investing in the founder, not just the idea.
AJ,
Hello.
why do you do what you do?
Wow. Good question. Um, I do what I do because I believe I found out my purpose in life really early, and that was all about impact. So the only way I can get pleasure or joy or satisfaction is if what I'm doing is tied to impact. So if you see my journey, I've got a career in finance. I studied in the UK. I've worked in France. But even with all that, I had an urge to move back to Africa. So I was working in Oracle, fantastic job. But I just decided that I need to transfer knowledge. And moving back, I did move back as an entrepreneur, as a startup. I had a fintech solution, but I think I was too early at the time. This was all about payments, QR payments, and cashless and all that at 2013.
Wow.
So I was ahead of the banks in Nigeria. A lot of people didn't understand what I was trying to do. So after that, I'd consider that as a failure, but I learned a lot. I went back to the UK to do a master's, and coming back again, I got a role with government. So I was head of technology for e-government, and I was able to see, that you can't just transfer knowledge into Africa. You also need structures that would retain that knowledge as well. So I was trying to build structures, trying to build things that would outlive me. And one of the crucial things that I was able to achieve was democratizing the national identity program. So originally, the Nigerian identity program was limited to only government officials collecting these data, right? So I wrote the blueprint for private sector to play a key role, because at the time the identity program was on for about 15 years, but we only achieved about 15 million registrations. But by the time the private sector came in, we're now at 80 million. So this shows that if you can communicate the value of identity or the value of the digital economy to mainstream, to the masses, people would actually buy in.
Just on that, could you
Yeah.
walk us through the steps you took to actually achieve that?
Okay, so I spent about 2.5 years in that government role. I'd say the first year was really trying to manage change. So change management. So I came in hot from the UK, had so many ideas, but as I said this morning in the panel, the role of government is really the key role of government is hiring the right people in the right spaces. So I got into that role, and these are brilliant people, but from another generation. And I'm coming here trying to talk about blockchain, trying to talk about AI, and they just couldn't get it. So I had to make sure that I communicated my plans in the language they understand. So you have to be really patient. I tried to get their buy-in, internal buy-in, and once I did that, they gave me all their blessings and the go ahead, and they really really supported me in achieving, that feat. So it's all about community in a way. Everybody needs to rally around the idea, but they can't if they don't understand. So you need to really communicate the benefits of what you want to do.
I like that. And what made you join Afrilabs?
My pursuit of impact. So coming from private sector in the UK, launching my own company in 2011, and then having a government role. So I've had the private sector, I've had the public sector, and I've always wanted to get into development because that's like the pinnacle of impact, right? But I also didn't want to be a typical development player who is just let's help or aid based or grant based. I wanted to have create a mix of both in a non-profit, but still having the principles of a profit mindset in a non-profit mindset because it's beyond just taking KPIs. Impact has to equate to revenue as well, and revenue should equate to impact. You can't impact if there's no funds, and if you're only relying on grants, then it's not sustainable. So you have to find a way to be self-sustained and given that direct impact. So at Afrilabs, we're non-profit, but I focus more on the profit side of the non-profit. I interact with investors. I provide enabling environment for VCs to come into Africa. I direct startups, make sure they're more attractive to investors, they're investor ready, and then also founders as well. The trend is changing. Money isn't just thrown anywhere. People want to understand the psyche of the founder. What is this guy about? How is he perceived in his ecosystem? What do his peers think about him? These are the real things that would bring money out of investors' pockets because they're invested in the founder, not just the idea.
Afrilabs do this.
Also, we create a community around founders, a community around startups, a community around private sector and government, right? We see ourselves as the gap or the bridge between private sector and public sector. What you'd see is innovation goes ahead of policies, right? And I've been personally affected by a policy change with my fintech back in 2013. 1 week to my launch, policy changed and ruined everything for me. So what we're trying to do is bring the two parties to the table and really communicate the benefits of a government supporting an innovation-led economy and also private sector carrying government along. Once that is clear, you'd find that you have an enabling environment. For example, funding usually goes to the big population in Africa. So you say Nigeria, South Africa, Egypt, Kenya, those are like the big four. Because every investor knows once you have people, you have a market. But if you look at smaller countries like Rwanda, where the population isn't that big, what they've done is leverage on data, leverage of ease of doing business, visa free. They're making themselves so investment ready that you would overlook some high population countries and rather go to Rwanda. For example, DRC, huge population, but it's easier to set up a company in Rwanda. And Rwanda is next door to DRC. So you can see how they're trying to position themselves as a soft landing country for Africa. So I think it's all about intentionality and understanding of opportunities. There's so much to be unlocked.
And how did Afrilabs actually grow to 54 countries in
Yeah.
Africa?
So we started in 2011. It was Afrilabs is a community-based organization, purely organic. So 5 hubs came together in 2011, from Cameroon, I think from Egypt, from Kenya, and Tanzania. And they said, you know what, we're building these hubs, we're building ecosystems, but we need to do it together. We don't want to build in silos. We've seen governments make the mistake in doing things in silos, but we as an innovation community, we should come together. And that togetherness over the last 12 years has grown from 5 hubs to 465, 54 countries, and over 300 cities in Africa. And this is purely organic.
Wow.
The board is run by community members elected by the community. Even our annual gathering, our flagship event where we move from country to country, is voted by the community as well. The permanent workers are the secretariats, which is domiciled in Abuja. It's headed by the executive director and then myself. So it's a structured African institution, but powered by community and powered by real human beings. So our mandate is for Africa's prosperity, and that's what we focus on.
And what are you telling, how are you convincing investors to essentially give you their money.
Ah, great, great. So I always say that, and me also coming from a finance background, is the key to decision making is information, right? If you can provide clean data, processed data that makes sense, right? Which we have at Afrilabs because of our coverage and also our foots on the ground. So these hubs are physical hubs, training real people. So we can feed back and aggregate this data about Africa, package it in the right way that the investor wants to see. We also answer the issues that the investors have. Maybe sometimes it's lack of clarity or lack of data or government policies. So we can also talk to governments on behalf of investors to say, look, we have people who are ready to come into your country, but this is their criteria. How can we meet in the middle? Or how can you create a sandbox for them to test what they want to do? And if it does work, then you can put out regulation or policy around it and control how, and also protect your citizens. Another thing is IP as well, right? Intellectual property. We work with a lot of academia, we work with research organizations, we work with UN. Arms, work with the AU as well. And we're trying to build some sort of a soft landing space where investors know they're investing in things and their IP is also protected. Because at the end of the day, we're in an information age. IP is the real asset, right? So we were providing some sort of structure and protection around that, so investors can also scale up their ventures.
And from the entrepreneur's point, what sort of support are you providing them, and how are you actually helping them to become
Yeah.
successful in Africa?
So we offer capacity building through our hubs. So what we believe is, so in the ecosystem we have over almost 2 million startups, right? But we serve these startups through our hubs. So we believe in, if you have a strong hub, the hub would also produce strong startups, right? It's like a family. If you have a good family base, the child is likely to carry that culture ahead. So we offer capacity building, investor readiness, access to funds, exposure, creating enabling environments with the governments, and also support. So, for example, Afrilabs were also into aviation. A lot of people didn't know that. So we train pilots, we train air traffic controllers,
Wow.
because we travel a lot around the continent, and it's not easy traveling around Africa. Why is it taking me hours, to go to South Africa, to go to Zambia? You really don't have direct flights, and that's because the flight path is mapped, and there's some blind areas in Africa because there's no satellite signals, so the planes can't fly over where it can't be tracked, so they have to go through the route. And also, if you look at the global space, there's going to be a gap in workforce, and Africa has that workforce. So the whole world is looking at Africa to fill these gaps. So we also position ourselves in a way where entrepreneurs, apart from what they're doing, you can also learn skills on top of what you're doing as a fallback. Because we know that not every business is going to be successful. You're going to learn from whether it's a success or failure, but you should also have skills that would drive you forward. The entry level to be a pilot is just high school education. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, it's as easy to get in. It's really a technical
To enter
course.
the school?
Yeah, to be a pilot, you only need a high school
Wow.
education. You
And the
don't
rest
need
you
to.
get from the
Yeah, the
aviation.
rest you get is from the aviation school. So the entry level is so low. Africans are so smart, but this hasn't been communicated. So we're innovative about the opportunities we create as well, and these gaps are there.
And how do people get involved with Afrolabs from both sides, the entrepreneur side and from the investor
Okay.
side or donor side?
We've launched a platform called Afrilabs Connect, but the website is africonnect.net. This is basically our own landing, our own single window for information. So it's like LinkedIn for the innovative ecosystem. Startups, government, academia, media, donor agencies, everyone has a profile and everyone sees what is going on. So, for example, we're physically meeting here, but what happens after? Right? You still need to connect, you still need to message, and you don't want to do it on a platform that is crowded. And also, You heard today one of the panelists say 2% of data, global data, comes from Africa. And that's because most of our data is hosted on foreign platforms. So we need to start owning the narrative. This is an African platform. We've also built our own generative AI that is powered by African research. So you ask it to probably develop a business plan in an African context, and it would do that because we're feeding it research from the
Amazing.
community. So we're trying to just, level up, and Africa is catching up, right? We need to accelerate our catch up so we can lead. We have the people, we have the knowledge, we have the brains to lead the technology space globally. All we need is the tools. We've also partnered with a company called Builder.ai. They're one of the fastest growing companies in the world. And what do? They build apps using AI. So what you need to do is just put in your problem statement, and the AI bot would literally provide a prototype for you in 30 seconds.
Goodness.
So you can move to market in a week, and you don't need to be a coder. It's a no-code platform. So I know that, we'll still need the skills, the coders and everything, but we still have problems we need to fix today. And those problems need solutions, right? So the quicker we can solve our problems ourselves, the better.
What's your big, hairy, audacious goal?
I need to raise $1 billion in 3 years. And
No
that's just the
pressure.
starting point. Yeah, no pressure, because as I said, like we have an academy, we have the Afrilabs Connect platform, we have two funds, Catalytic Africa and the Deal Room. There's so many opportunities around Africa that I don't see why a community-based organization cannot raise $1 billion. There's just so much to be done, and we believe in the power of collaboration. Everything is all about partnerships. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. I know in Africa, because of the infrastructure problem, as an entrepreneur, you would be tempted to basically create the value chain from the beginning. So for example, I want to go into e-commerce, but because of the way it's structured, I need to be a logistics company. I need to be a marketing company, before I even focus on my e-commerce. But through the power of collaboration and the community, the other startups who are playing that role, looking for customers, looking for collaborations, and you don't always have to go to the big guys. The seriously really, really good startups that you can leverage on as an entrepreneur. And because you're at similar stages of growth, you obviously get a better deal, and the energy is there. When you partner, you're a small company and you partner with a big company, and they don't even have time for you, and you're wondering, oh, why did I even do this? But when you're partnering with other startups, the energy is there. Everybody moves together, and this is even beyond profit
Leveraging.
or revenue. It's just, I want to get this thing done. It's purely impact. So it's all about leveraging on the
Skills.
community.
100%.
Yeah.
Final question. Any piece of advice that you would give to young entrepreneurs?
It's not an easy road. It's not an easy journey, but you need to be strong, you need to be steadfast, and you need a support system. A lot of young people are, and I've been there myself. When you have your idea, you think you know everything. You just have that tunnel vision. But you really need to talk to the elders. You need to talk to mentors. You need to talk to people who have been there and how they've come out of it. Because an entrepreneur, especially in this African environment, it's a lot on your mental health as well. You need a lot of support systems around you, and raising capital as well. If it's easy, the money and the returns on that capital you've received is not easy to pay back. And also, a lot of people are selling ideas that they know in their heart is not scalable. They just want to raise that first fund, and if the business dies, so be it. But you really need to start thinking in a sustainable manner, because the world is looking at us, right? And the world is looking and judging us on the quality of startups we produce. You hear in the news a lot of companies who have raised funds, they're shutting down, 86 million, 50 million. It's not a good look. And this is why Afrilabs, we believe in strengthening the hubs. If you're coming from a seriously quality hub with with quality business processes, that will be reflected in the startup. So when the startup is creating structure, it's mirroring what the hub has created, which is a sustainable structure. And that's it really. It's not an easy road, but success at the end,
It's worth it.
it's worth it. It's worth
100%.
it.
AJ,
It's
thank you.
worth
Thank
it.
you for your
Thank you
time and
so much.
also the impact that you're making with Afrilabs and also the impact that you've already made along your career and journey.
Thank you.
And I know that you're going to raise that a billion and hopefully we can help you get there.
Definitely.
And also to any entrepreneur listening, please guys join Afrilabs and check them out.
Thank you.
So thank you. Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you very
Cool.
much. Thank
Thanks,
you.
AJ.